Next, let me introduce the sixth speaker. Morimitsu from Tokyo Keizai University will deliver the speech under the title of Feel and Sense, Pen and Paper, and Step by Step. Feel and Sense, Pen and Paper, and Step by Step. Morimitsu, please come up to the stage.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, honorable judges, questionnaires, and all the organizers today. Good afternoon, everyone. It was a freezing day in the middle of last January. I was riding my bicycle far, far away from home with an icy headwind blowing on my face. I was crying loudly, shouting and screaming louder than I had ever let out before, trying to disappear somewhere where no one would find me. I glanced at my side and saw a wide river flowing gracefully. The reflection of the morning glow was breathtakingly beautiful, which starkly contrasted with the indignation of my heart. The night before the day I back along the river, I heard something from the person I dearly loved, my mother. Ran, I need to talk to you. She was the kindest and most considerate person I had ever known. After a long pause, she said, I've decided to get a divorce from your father. I felt like a thunderbolt had struck my head. Can you imagine the person who has been by my side since I was born, who has been like the sun and the light of my life, suddenly gone from home? All night, my heart was enraged like a tornado, while my mind was frozen like an iceberg. The next thing I knew after riding the bike was that I was at a cafe. I had a cup of tasteless coffee and a pile of tissues. I kept crying and crying, wondering, why me? Why my family? Why my mother and my father? I couldn't figure out the answer to the question until the end. Only thing I was able to do was to tell myself, this should be my fate. I tried very hard to think this way. Yet, my life without my mother drastically changed from what it used to be, and I struggled terribly to find my way. It was an utterly dark period. I couldn't go to classes. I lost energy to go outside or even to get up in the morning. I hated dinner time, which I used to love because it reminded me of my mother's cooking. Every day, my schedule was empty, but my heart was wrenched with so many emotions. As I experienced, our lives could become upside down, as if we stood on our heads rather than our feet. Today, I'd like to share my ideas in coping such an ordeal in our lives. The 3 steps I propose are first, to feel all your emotions. Second, write down all the emotions that you felt. And finally, challenge yourself with a series of new things. First, in my room alone, I decided to be keenly aware of all my emotions while sharpening and honing all my senses. Is it anger? Sadness? Or loneliness? What do I feel regretful about? My mother who left me? Or myself who couldn't do anything for my family? By sensing and analyzing my emotion, I could be much less anxious and become aware of my own emotion and their possible causes. Second, I wrote them down on a piece of paper in front of me. All day, I cried and wrote, cried and wrote, and cried and wrote. By the end of the day, my room was filled with a tremendous amount of paper. Then, gradually, I found myself comforted and refreshed as my messy thoughts and emotions became very neatly organized. Writing also clarified the following actions I needed to take. Finally, as soon as I woke up the next morning, I went to a cafe and made a list of everything that I could possibly do to move forward with my life. By the time I had written down all my ideas, my heart was filled with a desire to achieve each of these goals, and started to wonder where to start and how to do it. Over the next 6 months, I took on numerous challenges one by one, all of which were new to me. I cooked dishes with original recipes, did bungee jumping, traveled alone for a week, wrote a book, entered coaching seminar, and finally became a coaching team leader. When almost all the challenges were done, I was filled with renewed self-confidence. In other words, I could stop thinking about what I could not change. Instead, I could focus on what I could change. Getting out of the box only once might not have made a sizable change, but all of those tiny little and sometimes huge challenges have accumulated and made me who I am today. I am now standing here with complete confidence and genuine desire to share the lessons I've learned from my life. I believe that in this way, step by step, I will expand my comfort zone and circle of influence. I don't know when or how that challenge will come to fruition, but I have no doubt that it will all make sense in the future. Looking back, I became more considerate and resilient through this experience. I can now truly say that I'm blessed to have such an admirable mother and father and all the remarkable people who supported me while I was down in the dumps. Sometimes life throws us a curveball, and we are confronted with the devastating situations. A failure in exams and job hunting, being suddenly laid off, falling with severe disease, breakups, loss of a loved one, and so forth. But I believe that these experiences are there to help us grow farther. So when it happens, feel your emotions, write them down, and with the energy you gain by doing so, take on a series of new challenges. Then the time will come when you can embrace and even savor them. Because as the author of a chapter of the Chicken Soup for the Soul says, everything happens for a reason. Now, I'm full of hope for the future. And my life is flowing like the river with the stunning morning glow that I saw on that winter day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morimitsu. Then we will have a question and answer session. Mr. Carver, please begin.
Thank you very much for sharing your story and your inspirational speech. My first question is, you talk about writing as being therapeutic, as being an essential step. Why do you think writing is therapeutic and can be?
Okay, thank you for your question. One of my favorite books, Writing Meditation, said that writing suppress our anxiety and stress and change negative thinking to positive thinking. And writing is forcing people to translate the experience into words, into languages. And it is slowing down the thought process. So I think that is what happened to me, yes.
Are you able to share with us what your book was about that you wrote?
It was kind of a short stories, and I like writing books, so I just gathered some short stories into a big book, but I've never showed to anyone, so it's kind of embarrassing for me.
Again, writing is personal therapy. What other resources do you think could be important for helping people that are in a situation such as yours, people facing a very challenging home situation. What are the resources do you wish you had had access to that might have helped you?
Okay, thank you for the question. I actually overcame these difficulties alone. But if there was some communities or professional counselor or someone who I can access them easily, that might be good for me at the time. But yeah, it was a good experience that I could deal with it by myself.
Actually, I'm going to continue. I've got time for another one here. Have you been able to play a supportive role for anyone? And now that you have learned this lesson and learned how challenging it is and how to move through it, have you had the opportunity to guide someone through a similarly difficult situation?
Does that mean that I told this story to others?
Yes, or guided them, been a mentor, been a guide for someone as they were trying to get through a challenging situation.
Thank you. Yes, when I was last year, I went to study abroad in Australia, and at the time, there was a friend who faced difficulties with her host families, and at the time, I regularly made a time to communicate with her and support her to listen to her stories and give advice, and did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carver. Then, Mr. Tokuhisa, please.
Okay, thank you, Ran, for sharing your very precious experience and the way you have overcome your hard situation. And my first question would be that when you were really distressed, when you first heard of your tragedy or whatever it is called, how did you come up with these 3 steps? Did anyone tell you about it, or did you learn it by reading books, or did you find it by yourself?
Okay, thank you for the question. I came up with this idea when I was in my room alone. Like for the first month or so, I had no idea what should I do and I had no energy to do something else. And I strongly avoided feeling my emotion because I thought it would just make me sad and mad. But the idea didn't help me even after 2 months. So I realized that I needed to do something different. And that's when I came up with this idea to do the exact opposite thing, which is feel and sense my emotion. So yes, I kind of came up with this idea by myself.
I see. Thank you. And how long did it take for you to complete all of these 3 steps and become more confident as you are now?
Okay. At least it took me half a year to overcome this situation. And there are so many difficulties after my recovery, of course. So it's hard to answer that whether I am completely fine or not, but yeah, totally it took more than half a year to overcome.
I see. Okay, then you mentioned that now you are recovered and full of hope. And I just wonder what new challenges you are thinking about that you are about to start.
Okay, thank you. The little challenge that I'm going to do next month is do a full marathon. And the big one is one of the biggest goals in my life is to be a professional coach who can support others to achieve their goals that they really wanted to achieve. And I know that it's so challenging, but I kind of have a hunch that I can be a professional coach if I follow these 3 steps.
I see. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tokuhisa. Again, thank you so much, Mr. Carver, Mr. Tokuhisa, and Morimitsu.